All right, everybody, the wedding is over. I am back from my honeymoon. I'm slightly delayed on starting up the videos for the reviews again. Do apologize, but we're going to get back into it with the master, the one, the only, the original Alice Cooper group. Okay, so everybody almost from the original Alice Cooper group. Unfortunately, Glen Buxton has passed away, unable to do that. Cats are coming to say hi. There's Lanny saying hi. All right, hi Lanny, bye Lanny. There's Pandora saying hi. Hi Pandora, bye Pandora. Okay. My cat's obnoxiously annoying. No, guys. The second I turn on the camera, they start. Okay, so what do I think of the new album? Oh, first off, the artwork is awesome. I like the artwork. I think that's fantastic. Make it look like a classic horror movie that the guys would have watched back in the day. All right. In the great pantheon of Alice Cooper, there's the Alice Cooper group, and then there's Alice Cooper. This is the Alice Cooper group. All right, so we're talking the original band here. In comparison to the whole collection of Alice Cooper's years, this is definitely a very good album. You know, there's some, and depending on what eras you're into, depends on how much you're going to reflect on this album as well. If you're a 80s, 90s guy, meaning, the MCA records, so like Constrictor all the way through, we'll say up to Dragontown, getting that hard rock, heavy metal run in there. This album may not work as well for you. If you're into definitely the original group, this album should work for you. This album features... The original group was around for approximately 7-8 years, okay? So you go from like about 68 till 74, all right? So you got that as your run for the original group. And in that time period, the diversity in music that they released and the difference in styles and contrast and whatnot were insane. This album explores that entire period, basically. Re-explores it, sort of. And when I say re-explores it, I mean they're not, living off of past riffs, past songs, stuff like that, which I will come back to at the very end, which is funny. This is 100% an original album that is definitely not... Detroit Stories is the last album that I truly thought was brilliant. Road wasn't bad. Detroit Stories was brilliant. But Detroit Stories had the luxury of using other people's songs from the past, stuff like that. This is all original. This is all the original band getting together and doing it together again. The album's up with Black Mamba, which I actually talked about in my preview review. It's the opening. It was the first single released. The intro to it. So it's much better on the stereo. I know I mentioned this in other reviews. When you're watching songs on YouTube, especially on YouTube, YouTube cuts out the high frequency and the low frequency. So you do lose part of the music. And it makes a big difference in some of these songs. Like Black Mamba is a prime example. The intro to Black Mamba sounds a lot better on the album coming out through a stereo or the car, man. I've been road tripping for my honeymoon. 2 weeks of road tripping on my honeymoon. Did a lot of CD listening. Black Mamba starts off really nice. Gets into the meat of the song. When you get in the meat in the song, man, and it's got one of the most singable choruses. La, 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 la. Just get into it, man. You can't get out of it. It's just such a great chord riff going in there, man. Then we're into Wild Ones, which I also talked about in the preview review. And Wild Ones didn't hit me the same way as Black Mamba did. However, that being said, Wild Ones is actually growing on me. I should go through as everyone reviews songs. So Black Mamba, Alice Cooper, Bob Ezra, and Michael Bruce. Makes sense. Michael Bruce kind of written song. I love Michael Bruce written songs. I love the original band in general when they get together and start writing. But the thing with Black Mamba is the lead guitarist on it, Robbie Krieger, as in The Doors, Robbie Krieger. Wild Ones, This one was okay. Giassi Hus, I do apologize if I pronounce that wrong. He's been the fill-in for the second guitar, like Glen Buxton being missing. So he's basically the fill-in on most of this album. The Wild One's great kind of rock song. If it had come out back in the day, it would have been fantastic. But coming out now, it it's not a bad tune. It just doesn't have the same vibe and flavor I think it would have had if it come out in the 60s or 70s. This is one of those ones that definitely feels like it should have been a little more easy action or pretties for you. Love it to death kind of at the latest. Up All Night. Okay, I love Up All Night. This one actually really has some fun to it. Wild Ones is Alice Cooper, Bob Ezra, and Dennis Dunaway. Up All Night is Alice Cooper, Bob Ezra, and Michael Bruce. You'll notice that Alice Cooper, Bob Ezra tend to be the first two names on most of these songs, which Up All Night, nothing like listening to a bunch of guys pushing their 80s singing about how they can keep it up all night, man. And how women should be impressed with them. Yes! Kill the Flies, Alice Cooper, Bob Ezra, and Neil Smith. I should mention there is another guitarist that pops up on a lot of these songs, Rick Tedesco. So Rick does a really good job on this album too, going through on here, which is really nice. Kill the Flies. Musically, really dig this song. Lyrically, I'm not sure how I feel about it. There's part of me that thinks it's just a little too cheese for me. It's another one where musically, this one definitely feels 70s, but lyrically feels kind of 80s. And I think part of my problem with the song is the vocal delivery. I'm not sure how I feel about the vocal delivery on that one. One Night Stand. Okay, this one's great, man. This one's got some great double wordplay on this one. Double wordplay I haven't seen since the original band. This is Alice Cooper, Bob Ezra, and Dennis Dunaway again. One Night Stand. It's both a one night stand as in, talking about a one night stand, but it's a one night stand as in talking about one night stand. Like, next to your bed, yes. A nightstand next to your bed, has a little lamp on it or whatever, just kind of a fun song. I really enjoy this one. To this point, for the amount of times I've listened to this album, the next song is my absolute favorite on this album, Blood on the Sun. This is a Dennis Dunaway song, exclusive Dennis Dunaway. One of the few songs on here that was written by a sole member of the band. There are a couple. This is one of the few. Lyrically, every lyric, every word is from a movie title. And the way the song is sung, it's brilliant. I just absolutely love it. Dennis Dunaway typically tends to write some of my absolute favorite Alice Cooper songs. Always has been one of the best writers in the band as far as I'm concerned. This song though, man, this is like just brilliant. There's something about this song that just gets me so right here. And Blood on the Sun, not only is it a really good tune, but I mean, this is one of those ones where it almost feels like it's directly off of Muscle of Love. Almost. Like there's a small part of me that's like, is this directly from there? Because it's got everything about it just kind of has that vibe to it. But at the same time, it also has a vibe on it that really reminds me of Easy Action. Because Easy Action is the album that had, out of the two Zappa albums, Easy Action was the one that had the more technical prowess to it. And there's a certain technical prowess to this song while still having that artistic simplicity I just absolutely love to it. Crowd that gets in the way of your dreams. This is Bob Ezrin, Alice, and Neil Smith, and this is another one where I really kind of, I really dig it, but at the same time, it's kind of like every Alice Cooper album has that kind of like joke kind of song, and this is definitely that joke kind of song. And the reason why I say that is, it's like it's literally a song talking about the crap that gets in the way of dreams, talking about the wife, the life, stuff like that. But it's all about that. It's got that kind of punkish snarl to it, but when they get into old age, talking about old age and that, and there, how you're 60 some odd years old, you're still fighting to try and make the dreams happen. It works. It works, but it's so cheesy at the same time. Famous Face. This is a Michael Bruce exclusive song. Famous Face is one of those ones that just kind of, I'm going to say, I really don't think about it too much when the album's not playing. It's not one that sticks at all. Not to say that it's a bad song, it just doesn't stick. Money Screams. This would be Alice Cooper, Michael Bruce, and Neil Smith. Classic Alice Cooper kind of lyrical content where, it's just money, 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 money. Sex, death, and money. Those were the things that made Alice Cooper, right? So, Money Screams just feels appropriate. Then you got Alice Cooper and Dennis Dunaway. What a Sid. I really wish this song was a little more memorable than it was. It's another one where it's good while the album's playing, but when the album's not playing, I don't think of it. Intergalactic Vagabond Blues. Alice Cooper, Bob Ezrin, Michael Bruce, and Neil Smith. This one was a fun tune. This one was a really fun tune. I really kind of dig into that one a little bit. Not overly memorable, but fun. What Happened to You? Alice, Bob Ezrin, Dennis Dunaway, Glen Buxton, Michael Bruce, and Neil Smith. Guitars on this song include Michael Bruce, Glen Buxton, and Jossie House. I want to know how they did this. I want the insides. I want to know if it's an old riff that was sitting around, what they did. I really desperately want to know how they got Glen. Because it's amazing they got Glen for one. Like, you got to figure, Glen Buxton unfortunately passed away back in the 90s. He passed away before the Life and Crimes of Alice Cooper box set was released, which is why it was dedicated to Glen. So it's really cool that they've got Glen on here. I'd love to know if this is an old track that was left over from back in the day, if this was something maybe Glen happened to have sitting in storage somewhere. Maybe he had been working on it. I want to know so badly about this song and how they did this song, because to have Glen back is amazing. It's on the same level of what they did with the Beatles stuff. After John had passed away, and then the rest of the Beatles got back together, and they did those couple songs for the anthology, and then yet again they got that one more that came out a few years ago after George had passed away as well, where they were able to kind of put everybody back in there. I Ain't Done Wrong. This is K. Ralph. I don't know who K. Ralph is or why the band opted to do this song. Then the album officially finishes with See You on the Other Side, which is Alice Cooper, Dennis Dunaway, and Neil Smith. So when it comes to the original group, what people need to understand is Dennis Dunaway Glen Buxton, and Alice Cooper were the three from the very start that never went anywhere, never did anything. Michael Bruce came in later on, and then Neil Smith came in replacing John Spears on drums. And Neil Smith is married, if I remember correctly, I believe it's Neil Smith. It's one of two ways. It's either Neil Smith is married to Dennis Dunaway's sister, Cindy, I believe it is, or it's Dennis Dunaway is married to Neil Smith's sister, Cindy. But I think it's Neil Smith is married to Dennis Dunaway's sister, Cindy, who used to be the person who did all the costuming for the band. This song here really feels like it's for Glenn. You know, you miss your friend, you love your friend, you'll see him on the other side. That's really kind of what Revenge of Alice Cooper feels like. Now, the great part about Revenge of Alice Cooper is this compact disc, unbeknownst to me at the time of purchase or anybody else, contains not one, but two hidden tracks, technically. Hidden track being an unlisted track that's not on the back here. And I mentioned these two albums earlier, Pretty's For You and Easy Action. And the reason I mention these two albums now is the two hidden songs. I don't know. This is the problem. They're not listed anywhere in here. I have no details on this. So we have Return of the Spiders and Titanic Overture. Titanic Overture is the first song on Pretty's For You that opens up Pretty's For You. The second song on here, or the other song I mentioned, Return of the Spiders, is from Easy Action. So you have the first two albums getting revisited. I don't know if they redid the songs, if they're alternate takes from back in the day. Titanic Overture and Return of the Spiders definitely do not sound the same, though, as they do off of the Pretty's For You or Easy Action albums. But the sound on them, they could be beautiful digital remasters of original takes so they could get more Glenn that way. Or they could be, like they've just re-recorded them and they captured the flavor perfectly. And if these are new recordings, they captured the songs perfectly. There's also a third option, that part of it is original recordings and part of it is new add-on parts. Because the Alice vocals on here sound more like older Alice, less like younger Alice. And it makes a difference. But it still works. It still sounds perfect. It sounds like old Alice kind of trying to do young Alice. It's kind of really interesting. So the whole way around, do I recommend this album? Yes, it's the original group. You have to own this album. You can't be an Alice Cooper fan and not own this album. In comparison to only original Alice Cooper albums, this is a solid middle. Is it as good as Killers? No. Is it as good as Love It to Death? No. Is it in the same vein, possibly, as School's Out and $1 Billion Babies? Yes. Maybe leaning a little more towards Muscle of Love. I never been a huge fan of Pretty's For You. There's some good tunes on Pretty's For You, but I'm not a huge fan of Pretty's For You. Easy Action I've always been a much bigger fan of. And I would say this album is more kind of like on par with Easy Action and Muscle of Love for me. It's kind of interesting that I would go that way. That's kind of, and it's really interesting because both those albums say that Bob Ezrin had nothing to do with those two albums, and Bob Ezrin's all over this album. So it's really interesting. There are a lot of other albums I definitely think this is better than. I don't know if I would even put this in my top 10 for Alice Cooper. Overall, the grand spectrum of the career, I don't know if I'd put it in my top 10. But it could be up there. It could be. I have to give it some more listens. But, you've got some great later albums in there, When you look at Hey Stupid, Brutal Planet. The original Welcome to My Nightmare. When you got stuff like that in there, trying to put this album into a top 10 might be difficult. Top 5, it's totally out of the top 5. But I still say you got to own this album. It's still an amazing album. It's still the original Alice Cooper group. And, even if it's on the mid to low end of the original Alice Cooper group, arguably the original Alice Cooper group is still where the best stuff is. I do know, though, that Blood on the Sun I will be listening to for years from now. Absolutely. Black Mamba, definitely still going to be out there. See You on the Other Side. I really dig See You on the Other Side, man. It's got some great tunes on here. So, yeah, the whole way around, I got to say, pick it up, folks. Add that, I'm going to leave it here. Sorry for the delays on the album reviews. I have a life. I got married. I have a wife. I had a honeymoon. I got work I got to do around the house. Halloween's coming. Skeletons need to be put up. Stuff needs to be done. Anyways, folks, I will be back with another review shortly. And the next review is going to be yet again another Alice Cooper album review. So stay tuned for the next one. Like button, subscribe button, bell for notifications. Drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Otherwise, folks, peace, love, take care.